Thank you so much. We don't want to interrupt him with questions. So instead, you were all given an index card. On that index card, you can write down your question, raise it in the air, and a teacher will come around and collect it. And when the time is appropriate, we will get to your question. Now, please note, we may not get to everybody's question, because what I also have with me is my iPad, and I have 6th and 8th grade students who also have questions that they're relaying to me via back channel chat. So I have those to relay as well. Now, since we are here, remember we wanted to give a warm round of applause to welcome Mr. Piacek.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Like they say, my name, you can call me Abe. I was born in Poland because I only have an hour. I usually could go on speaking for about 5, 6, 7 hours. And so I'm going to have to give you the most important thing what happened to me when I was 11 years old. Now, I was born in 28, and they took me away at 11. How old am I now? You have any idea? Well, who said close to 100? No, oh, one person? No, I'm 87. Going on 89. You know. Okay, right now I don't want to sit at the table, but I'm going to tell you this story, what happened to me and before the war. We used to play with the Polish kids. We used to have a Jewish gang. We used to have a Polish gang. And we were fighting each other. We used to throw stones on each other, but I don't think we hit them, and they didn't hit us because we were throwing the stones over the homes. Now, when the war broke out in 1939, the German army, the Wehrmacht, came into my town, and they were bivouacking in front of my house. And a couple days later, my father and my uncle went out, and they were talking to the soldiers, but they got acquainted with 2 officers who were in charge of the battalion, was there bivouacking. And of course, my father took him into the house, introduced him to my mother, and my father said, well, we are hungry, we have very little food, what can you do to help us? And the officer said, do you know where to get the food? My father and uncle said, yes, we know where to go. And they went on a jeep to the farms, and they took whatever they want, potatoes, carrots, chickens, anything they wanted, they took it, and I don't think they paid for it. I think they were stealing it. And you know why they were stealing it? Because the Polish people were afraid if they didn't give it to them, they most likely be killed. Well, they were bringing us all that food, and a few months later, that went on almost every day. And after a while, they said to my father that they going to go towards Warsaw because it was about 25 to 30 kilometers from Warsaw, my town. It's a small town, maybe about 700, maybe half Polish and half Jewish. And before the war, we got along, but not really. There were pogroms. And I remember one time my father came home with a hole in the head and was bleeding. And my mother asked him what happened. He said he got a fight with a guy, an instigator, because he bit off a policeman's finger. And my father, I guess, was mad and he hit him. They hit each other and it came home with a hole in his head. Well, the day came and the two officers were sleeping in our house. My mother made dinner for them, and they were sleeping on the straw on the floor. And after that, they say they're going to go away, and sure enough, they went away. Now, as they were going away, after a day they went away, all of a sudden we saw assessmen coming in with brown shirts or black shirts. They were from Hungary, for Ukraine, from all over wherever they could get a hold of them. Only the Germans were in charge of those Ukrainians or the Hungarians and the Latvians. Yeah. So as far as I know, as far as I was concerned, I was 11 years old, so I didn't pay any attention. And I said to my buddy, I said, come on, let's take a walk, because I know we're supposed to go fishing, but we took a walk, and I heard from a distance the German DSS had the clicks on their feet like nails, so you heard them. They were coming from a distance, and I heard them coming. I said to my friend, well, somebody's coming, I don't know who. As close as they came, I saw there were the brown shirts, and they came maybe about 2-3 feet from us, from all of them, and they asked me, Mr. Juden, in other words, are you Jewish? And I understand what that means. I said, yeah, me, Mr. Juden. And so the guy who was standing besides me took out the pistol and shot my friend in the head, and he fell down, and I ran so fast. I never ran that like before, and I escaped, and I was hiding in a place, because when I was about 7-8 years old, I used to go hide and seek, so I know where was a good hiding place. And I stood in there, and I heard them going by, and they didn't catch me, and I was there for quite a while till it got dark, and I went into the house. As I went into the house, my father said, where were you? So I told him what happened. He said, next time don't do it. I said, you never told me not to go out. So that was it. We woke up in the morning, and we had to go outside, and I thought for sure those two assessmen would recognize me. So I put on a hat, and I put on a different shirt, and I tried to hide from them on the side, and sure enough, they went by, and they did not recognize me, and I was very, very happy. So, and meanwhile, my father volunteered to go to work for the German Wehrmacht, because from my place was a palace, and they took over the palace, and they were working in there because they didn't get paid, and they were marching, and they were singing, the marching maybe about 50 to 100. And my father was there for quite a while. And my father said to me, you want to come with me? I said, yes, I can come with you. So he took me with him, and he told me to peel potatoes. As I was peeling potatoes, I was peeling with my left hand. I'm lefty. And the officers came by, and they started laughing. Look what he's peeling with his left hand. I was there for almost every day for quite a while, and then they assigned me to an incubator. They put eggs hatched to little chicks, and that was my job for quite a while, for a few months, and I did this every day. as I was going home, I used to steal whatever I can to bring some food home for my mother, and my father couldn't because I could. I was wearing knickers, and I put some stuff in my knickers, and they never caught me. And that went on for quite a while, and the SS told the Jewish people they could not go into a certain place, they have to stay in one place. So, and meanwhile, the Jewish people had to have police. They used to call them kapos. And my uncle volunteered to go be a capo, and quite a few people got killed as they were walking out to the place where they shouldn't, and because there was no food, they had to do certain things that they had no other choice but to do that. So one day, there was in 1940 when I was 12 years old, around May, June, my uncle came into my house. He came into my house and he whispered something to my father. Now, I had no idea what he whispered, but the next day, my father disappeared. And my mother wasn't bad. My sister was sitting on the bed. My mother was crying. She didn't know where he went. And I didn't see him. And a little while ago, after he disappeared, my uncle came into my house, the couple. He was a very, very good uncle to me. And he used to give me my first haircut. He was a barber. And he said, Abe, give me your hand, you come with me. I said, where are we going? He didn't answer me. He didn't know, or he didn't want to answer me where are we going. And I looked out from a distance. I saw trucks lined up, and they taken people on the truck. And when the trucks are filled, we drove away. Meanwhile, from each household, one person had to go. So they took my uncle from my father's side, but the one who took me away was my uncle from my mother's side. And they, from each one, and so my uncle, they took my uncle, and he was married then, so his wife said, well, I can't stand by myself, and I want to come too, so she went too, with him, volunteered. So she had a sister, and she was not married, and because her husband, she had no idea where her husband went, so she volunteered, and she went also. We got on the truck was full, all them trucks was full, and after about quite a while, we stopped. It was getting dark. 2 doors opened up, and was a half of the size of this room, and all the trucks, the people got out, and we were packed in that room, and we had to sit on the concrete. There was nothing there. We were cool, and so you can imagine if you had to go to the bathroom, what happened if you have no facilities to go and you do what you're supposed to do as you were sitting down. This went down for a whole night, and the next morning, around 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, they came in and opened the door. They didn't even announce, and they said, "Everybody get up." We got up, went on the truck, but I was almost the last one out from that building, and I turned around, and you can imagine it was blood all over. It was every kind of mess you can think of was on the floor. It was very, very, very bad. And we had no showers to clean ourselves, no water to drink, nothing to eat. We went on the truck, and we came, the truck stopped, and I had no idea where we were. Finally, they said, everybody get out from the truck. We lined up, and we were marching. Now, we were marching from a distance. I saw barbed wires, and somebody was guarding a place like in a prison. As close as we came, I noticed the German guards sitting on top of the with the rifles on it, and the gate opened up, and we lined up, all of us lined up, and the Obersturmführer, he was in charge of the camp, came around, and he was looking at us. As he was looking at us, he took the elderly people out, the young kids my age, and they went on the side. And as I was standing there, the guy who was standing on my right looked at this. He said to me, Abe, they taken out younger kids, and they put them on the side, and they putting younger, older men, and they put them on the side. So I think you should come and stay between me and my brother. I had no idea what they meant, but I listened to them. And as they were coming closer to me, the two brothers said, Abe, we're going to do something, but don't do anything stupid, otherwise we most likely would be taken out too. They picked me up by my armpit, and they picked me up, and I was tall as them, and they went away, and they saved me. I said, oh my God, that was pretty good. And that went on almost for quite a while, and we had, as we woke us up after the lined up, after the reveille, whatever you call it, they said, well, you're going to have breakfast. Now, we didn't eat for a few days, and there was no facility where to go, so you can imagine how we felt in that place. They took us to a factory, maybe about a mile or 2 miles from the camp, and they assigned me a place to sit down, and they were making pistols, they were making bicycles, and they were making rifles. They assigned me to a pistol. My job was to make where the magazine fits from a 45. If you kids familiar with a 45, my job was to make the grooves in the 45 so the magazine could fit in it. As I was sitting down, I really screwed up the first piece of the pistol. And the guy who was in charge, a Polish guy, he said, well, I'm sorry, but I have to call and report you. I don't know what's going to happen, but I have to report you. And then a few minutes later, a gendarme came by, and he was holding a whip in his hand, and he said, you made a mistake. I said, I know I made a mistake. So I said, I'm sorry. And in Polish, they understood Polish. And I said, it wouldn't happen again. And he picked up the whip and hit me over my back. His whip was a little bolts on the end. You can imagine how that hurt. Yeah. So anyway, I was working that. I didn't make as much mistake. But when I made a mistake, the guy said, well, I know what's going to happen. If you make a mistake, I'm going to show you what to do with that piece, the 45 piece, where you can hide it. And sure enough, I made quite a few mistakes, and he didn't report me. So, and I was hiding him for quite a while. Now, that as we were in the camp was named Radom. It's about 15 to 20 kilometers from my house going north. And as we were marching, so those two guys said, you're going to stay with me. So people starting to escape from that camp because there was no food, hardly anything to eat, was no facilities to go, was no water shower, and we were starting infecting with lice. Because of no shower, we were sleeping on the bunks. My bed was on the third bunk because I was the lightest one, and they told me if a heavier guy gets on the top of the bunk, most likely he's going to fall down. So they assigned me I listened to them, and they assigned me on top of the bunk. And we were close together. We were packed like sardines, so we keep warm. We had no blankets. So you can imagine how it felt, people putting so close together. So meanwhile, on the loudspeaker it came out, who is a shoemaker, who's a tailor, who is an electrician, and who's a watchmaker, step out and stay there. So my uncle was a tailor. He used to make uniforms for the Polish army. That's the one for my father's side. And they said, you come with me. And he went with them. The other people went with somebody else, but I know him. So he went with them, and they said to him, you know how to make uniforms? And he said, sure, but make sure you know how to do it. And sure enough, he was making uniforms, and they gave him bread. They gave him a piece of salami. So he at least gave me a piece of bread once a week, sometimes twice a week, with something to eat. And I was very, very happy. So meanwhile, his wife was on the other side of the fence because they separate the women, the female from the male from the other side. And my uncle brought in to my aunt, and they were getting along, and as people started to escape from that camp, they caught them. They sometimes 5 people, sometimes 10, 20 people starting to escape because they said it's better to have a chance to escape than being in the camp. And so they caught some of them, and a few days in the week, or sometimes 3-4 times a month, they brought them together and they went out on the other side of the fence, and they were marching, and I saw the two SS men walking there with machine guns, and they were marching in the front. They told us to come around and stay at the fence and watch what they're going to do. So they stopped, and they told them to kneel down, and the 2S with the machine gun shot him in the head, and they were laying dead, and they were laying for quite a few days. So you can imagine where a body lives a few days, it's rotten, and it's the smell is very, very bad. Finally, they took him away after a few days. And that went on sometimes once a week, sometimes twice a week, or at least once a week. Whoever got caught got the same treatment. They killed them, and still people are escaping. Now, it was if you remember, if you know your history, that the German invaded the Soviet Union. Now, they almost went to Stalingrad, and almost came to Moscow. Now, as they were going, very well as they go coming closer to Stalingrad to Moscow, the Russian, the United States helped them, and they pushed the German back. And it was freezing then too, so they didn't have a chance, the German, and as they were pushing him back. Now, a rumor was going on in the camp that we're going to have to move if the Russians will come and close. Now, the day came, they told us to assemble, and they told us to take everything with us. I didn't have anything. I didn't even have a blanket. I just had a shirt with a jacket, a pants, and with shoes with no socks, no underwear, nothing. That's how they took me away. That's how it was. Now, like I said, the time came, we were marching, and people were falling down because they couldn't march. And as they were falling down, if a SS man was walking near that person who saw falling down, he shot him there, and he was laying there. So I have no idea what happened. You can imagine, picture yourself in your head what happened if people got shot. And some of them escaped. Quite a few of them escaped, and the guy next to me said, "Hey, come on, let's run away." And I said, "Where am I going? Where are you going?" He said, he doesn't know. Where? I said, I don't even know where I am. So I said, no, I'm not going to run away. So from a distance, we came to farms. As we came to farms, I saw the big barns opened up, and they pushed us into the barn. And as they were pushing us into the barn, and they told us to be very, very quiet, so the farmers could not hear anybody going into the farm. Now, as we were laying still, I heard something, and I smelled something, and I was near not a fence, but a separated from must have been hay or straw, and and I looked over and I saw cows, and I said, "Oh, wow!" So I jumped over the cows. No, but I don't think somebody heard me or somebody saw me. I have no idea. And I was sitting down on the manure, and it was nice and warm. So I was dozing, and as the light was coming on, the door opened up. And the minute they opened up, that person could see me, that I'm sitting over there. And she said, a young lady came in, she must have been about 16, 17, and she said in Polish, "What are you doing here?" So I told her, be quiet, because you got quite a few people in the back, and said the Germans are in the back, so be very, very quiet. And she said, "Wait a minute, I'll be right back." Now, I was pretty smart at that time. I said to myself, what is she going to do? I thought for sure that she's going to bring her father, and he probably would tell him, "What are you doing?" But instead, she came back with a with a glass in her hand. It was hot chocolate. That's the first time in my life as a 13-year-old boy had a chocolate milk. And I thanked her for it, and we were talking for a few minutes, and she went back to the house. And I have to tell you, after the war, after I was liberated, I found I couldn't find where we were staying, and I couldn't find that lady, and I wanted to thank her, and I couldn't. That went on for a few years, and I couldn't. Nobody knew where we were at that particular time. So I let her go, and I hope she's alive today, and she's okay. Now, as we were lining up, we came to a place from a distance. I saw a train, and I never saw a train in my life, but before I saw the train, there's a whistle blowing, a train whistle, and I said to myself, no, to my buddy, I said, what is that? He said, they were older than me, so they knew what a train was, and he said, that's a train. So I said, wow, we're going to go on the train. And sure enough, they packed us into a train, all of us who from a lot of other places. There must have been about 20, 30 cars. Everybody was packed in, tight, and you can imagine as we were going for quite a few hours, maybe about 6, 7 hours from my place where I was, and the train stopped. Everybody got out, and we lined up, and we were marching. As we were marching, I smelled a very interested smell, smelled like bacon. I said, oh my God, I said to myself, they must have good food over here. And nobody said anything, and we went in to the camp, but before we went in, a sign says, Arbeit macht das Leben süß. In other words, you work, and you'll be very, very good. Your life will be good. And it's underneath to say Auschwitz. This means Auschwitz in English. In German also means Auschwitz. In Polish is Auschwitz. So went in there. I never heard of that place. We lined up again, and the guards were looking around. Who was feeble, who was older, they could hardly walk, and those two brothers, they said, you come over here, you stay with us, just in case. And sure enough, they took out quite a few young kids, and they put them on the side, and when they come to me, they picked me up by my arm, and I was saved, and I started to call them my two angels. Now, from then on, I said to myself, angel in Yiddish is a galef. I don't know if anybody heard about that word, but that's what it's in the Yiddish language. So they saved me, and we went. They assigned a barrack to us, and at that place in Auschwitz was 4 bunks, one on top of each other. So the guys who were heavier than me or older than me, he said, well, you're going to climb on the 4th bunk. Was sleeping. There was no straw there. If it's any on some of them, it was very, very hardly anything. And there was no facilities to go. Whatever you did, you had to sneak out. If you got caught, you never saw anybody again. So they assigned me. The next day, we woke us up. They gave us a cup of coffee and a slice of bread. That was the good breakfast, what they said. And they assigned me. They gave me a barrel, and about 3 of us or 4 of us. And the guy was in charge. He said, you follow me, and I'll tell you what to do, and you do it without any, don't ask anything, just do it. So they came over and he said, you take that clothes and assort it and put it in the barrel and I tell you where to put it. And I sure did. And then all of a sudden, I turned around and I saw people coming from a direction like was from here to the door, maybe a little bit longer, and they told them to undress. They got undressed and they took the clothes down, and they went and they put it in. They told them they're going to take a shower, and after a few minutes, everybody was packed in. I heard that such a noise, I thought they were singing, and they had my good time taking a shower. Then all of a sudden, it got so quiet, I said to myself, what happened? And the guy said, there was no shower, there was gas. They gassed him, and on the other side were people, Jewish people, put them on the wagons, the dead bodies, and right near him was the crematorium, the gas chamber. No, where they burned the people, and that's how I smelled when I went in there. I smelled bacon, because if you burn a person, his flesh smells like bacon. But sometimes I burn myself, and sure enough, it smells like bacon. And since then on, every time I go by a restaurant that smells like bacon, the thing comes back to me, and sometimes I have tears in front of me. So I remember that. So they assigned me to that place for a few days, and as the Russian army came closer, and they said, well, we're going to have to move again. So a couple of days later, there was an announcement that the Russians are coming, and we're going to have to move. And whoever came on this train from Radom to assemble outside the barracks, and we were assembled. We went. They pushed us into a train, and they took us to Germany. Now that's where a lot of people ask me, because I have no number on my arm. They say, why didn't you get a number? And I told them I didn't have. They didn't have a chance to do it because we were moving around too fast from one place to the other. And we came to Germany. We went to a place named Weihinge. That's a small camp. It was a satellite from a big camp, but this was small, and they assigned me to work on the airport. Now, this was going on around 43, 44. We were there for quite a while, and as we were there, we had to fix the runway with cement. The American and the English was bombing the airport, and so my job was to get on the train, and then another train, and take 2 50-pound bags of cement. I don't know if anybody of you kids, I was 14 then, put 2 bags of cement, one on each shoulder, and I had to do it. So I sure did, but a lot of people couldn't do it. So as they were going down from the train, they have a platform, you go down, and if you couldn't do it, sometimes you drop a bag. So the guy who was standing there, an assessment, he took his foot and he pushed them down, and the guy fell down and he shot him right over there. That went out for quite a while, almost every day, 5, 10 people were shot. And I guess I was strong enough to carry 2 50-pound bags of cement. Now, before that, of course, they assigned us to a barrack, and was straw laying down there. There was no showers, and was no facilities to go. If you had to go, if you couldn't walk, you went right over there where you were sitting or laying down, and people got sick, and the first time I saw people getting sick like this, and I couldn't wake him up because he was sleeping near me, and I had no idea why he didn't wake up, but I found out later we were typhus, people got sick, and because they had diarrhea, and they didn't eat, so that and they got sick, and so quite a few got sick. From the few hundred they were assigned, maybe about 60 or 70 of us went out from that camp. As the Russians were closing in, and they said, well, we're going to do it again, and we went on the train, we lined up, and they took the elderly people out, because you can imagine people didn't eat, people had no water to drink. If they did, they sneaked out. If they caught them, they killed them right away. And you can imagine how difficult, how hard that was to be like this. I wore them pants, and my shirt and my shoes has a hole in the shoes, and somebody told me to get some newspapers. So I was looking for a newspaper. Sometimes I found it and sometimes I didn't. I wrapped my foot around on the newspaper and kept my foot from freezing. I almost lost my left leg because I got gangrene on my foot, and I was going on, and one person gave me a piece of rag to put it around it. But before that, I went to the infirmary, and I saw the doctor. I said, look what happened. He said, well, leave the rag on and don't come back again. I said, why? And he said, just don't come back again. So I talked to my friend. He said, what do you mean don't come back again? So he told me, if you come back and he has to do something, they don't ask any questions. They take you on the side and they shoot you right over there, and you're finished. I said, oh my God. So I went around with that foot with the gangrene till I got liberated. But meanwhile, the rag stuck to it, and I couldn't take it off myself because it was sticking to it. And so they told us to line up, and we lined up again. They came around, and we went on the train, and we had no idea where we were going. Finally, we came to a place called Essenthal. In Essenthal, there was a railroad over there, so they assigned me and about 15 others to work on the railroad. Now, on the railroad, my job was to take a hammer, like a pickaxe, but on one side was a hammer, and I used to take the what you call it, the hammer, and put the little stones underneath the tracks. So on the ties, there were wooden ties. Anybody know what a tie is? A railroad tie. So it comes underneath with the track goes straight and the ties go this way. Okay, that's a tie. Yeah, am I right? Yeah, that's what they call a tie. So my job was to take the little rocks and put it underneath the tie, so when the train comes by, it wouldn't wobble. So that was my job and the other guys with me. So at that time, for some reason or another, we did not have SS to guard us. Only a private person to guard us, but from a distance, the soldiers were sitting down over there. I don't know why they didn't guard us or not. And this guy was very nice, and we told him we were very hungry. And he said, well, he hasn't got a heck of a lot either, but he'll see what he can do. And sure enough, he brought something, and he came over. Did you see me coming? We said, yes. You're going over there, but wait, and you have some food over there. I brought something for you guys. And sure enough, he brought some food, and we ate, and we thanked him for it. He did it at least once a week, sometimes more and sometimes not. That went on for a year and a half or better, from 1943 and a half to 1944, almost on the end of till 1944. Now, as we were working there, a lot of people died, and more typhus was going on in the other camp. The lice were crawling all over us, and a lot of people were sick, and my foot was hurting, and the gangrene was getting into the bone. I didn't know that then, and was very, 5 minutes, that's it. Well, it came to pass I had to cut out a lot of things, and so you can imagine I didn't have any food, and we went on the train. As we went on the train, we were going back and forth. As we're going back and forth, an American plane came over and put a bomb on one side and a bomb on the other side. My car lifted up, and all of a sudden it fell down, and I passed out. I passed out for maybe about 10 seconds, and I went to heaven, and I saw millions of people marching back and forth, and all of a sudden a voice came to me and said, "Go back, I don't need you." And I woke up, and I told a friend of mine what happened. He was laughing at me, but that's what happened to me. So anyway, as the train stopped, because they killed the locomotive, and all of a sudden, this guy looks out and he sees the people, whoever was guarding us on the train. On each train was a caboose on top, so they can see if somebody escapes or not. And the train, they were running away, and they put the rifles on the ground as they were running away. And my friend, who was tall, he looked out the little window. He said, "The guards are running away. I guess we're going to be liberated." So we couldn't open the car on the other side, from the inside. So he yelled out, "Open the car from the outside." So we ran out. We ran out to the crater, and I saw a Red Cross. He gave us packages. Each one has a package over there with cigarette, bread, whatever, and the thing. And they said, "Be careful what you eat, because otherwise you get sick." And sure enough, a lot of people ate, and they got sick, and quite a few of them died. And I was listening to my two friends, and I ate very, very little, slowly. And from a distance, I saw a truck and tanks going by, and who gets out from the truck? a black person. Now, I had no idea. I never saw a black person in my life, so I had no idea what they are and where they come from. As we going by, somebody said, the American Army. I said, oh my God, I had no idea black people exist because nobody talked about it. You know, so, they went away, and we were running away, the 5 of us or 7 of us, and as we running away, a jeep came and say, you are just liberated, you cannot do what you're doing, no, you cannot come with us. So they took us to a camp. As they took us to a camp, the elderly said, you're going to do something after you're liberated. And a train used to come by, and the curve, when the train comes by in the curve, has to go very slow. So they told us kids, get on the train and steal suitcases. So we stole suitcases. We threw them out. I never got anything from the suitcases. The elderly people, I don't know what they did with it. And all of a sudden, the Germans are complaining. Give me 3 more minutes. I can go on for a whole day. So anyway, I'm cutting it short a little bit. And and who came over is General Patton. Came over, he said, to the elderly people, and I was listening, you know, he was speaking in English, and somebody was interpreting to German or Polish or Yiddish. And he said, you guys are stealing, the German people are complaining, and you cannot do that. I'm going to fence you in with barbed wire. And that was a no-no. And so whoever was in charge of the camps, he said, who is more charged than you? And he said, well, General Eisenhower. So General Eisenhower happened to be there, and he came to the camp, and he told us, I say, if you guys stop stealing, stop running on the trains, Patton is not going to put in the fence. And sure enough, he didn't put in the fence, and we changed to a different clothes. We took the first time in 5 years, I took a shower, and they deliced us with a chemical. You can't use it today. It's very, very poisonous. And they showed me how to take a shower. They showed me how to flush a toilet. I never saw a toilet in my life. And what do you call it? And we were eating good. They assigned us to a place. They took us to the children, and the elderly kids got married, and a year later, from 45 to 46 to almost 47, children were born, and the camp almost doubled in size. So when I spoke to Mount Olive last year, after I spoke, a lady was sitting in the back, and she was waiting for everybody to come and to go out. And then she came over. She had a cane with her, and the only word she said, I was one of them. Now, I had no idea what it meant. Then it came to me when I was talking about the kids being born. She was one of the kids, was born in Fernwald and came to the United States. But she, you know. So anyway, then I found out later on, if you remember, I told you what my uncle said to my father. He most likely said, you disappeared because I have to take one person from each house. And he said, I don't think Abe could took care of his mother, and you the one, so I'm leaving you alone, and I had to take me. So anyway, I came to the United States August 3rd, 1947, and whoever was on that truck, including the two friends of mine, we were liberated on the same thing. The liberation was we were going to Dachau. If you read history, Dachau was the last camp. If you went in there, most likely you didn't get out. Dachau was the last destination. The reason why my train didn't go into Dachau is because the damaged the locomotive and they couldn't move, and that's why we were saved. I came over here in 1947, and the captain said after we'd gone on the ocean, he said, we're going to go to the Statue of Liberty, and I'll let you know when we come to it. And 3 o'clock in the morning, he woke us up, be coming into the Statue of Liberty, and he said, everybody who wants to see it, come out and stay on the starboard side. So all of us, must be about 5,000 people on the ship, and there was a army transport, so there was a lot of soldiers too. So we all went up, and the ship was tilting. And he yelled out a yell, say, go on the other side, because most likely we're going to turn over. And sure enough, we went on the other side, and he said, well, for that reason, I'm going to go around again, and you can see it. So sure enough, he did. We landed in New York, and they assigned us a hotel. We were eating good, and they gave me $5 in my pocket. And I was walking on Saturday. I used to walk out to see the Times Square, and I saw money on the ground, and I stepped on it. And the guy who was with it, he said, "Let's go." I said, "No, I want to stay here." And he had no idea what I was talking about. And after it got dark, and I took my foot off, and it was a $20 bill, but was play money. Yes, it was play money. Monopoly money, I found out. So he said, that's where he was standing. But as a kid, as a 7-year-old kid, I was taught not to pick up any money on Saturday. So that's why I was standing there, and he said, wow, you're still doing it. But now if I see a penny, I still pick it up, even if it's on Saturday. Well, anyway, I came to the United States, and then they asked me where you want to go, and I said, they said Connecticut or California. I said, how far is California? How far is Connecticut? So I took Connecticut because it was closer, and I was there since 1948 till 1975. Meanwhile, I joined the American Army, and then I was there from 1948 to 1955, and I was in the reserve. I was lucky not to go not to Vietnam, to Korea. My outfit went there, Korea. Quite a few people didn't make it, and I feel bad. And I got married, and we moved from Connecticut to California. I used to live in California for about 17 years. Then we moved to Florida, and Boca Raton, Florida. And I got 2 citations, one from President Bush, what I'm wearing over here, and one from Senator Dole, and I have it home. And the reason I got it is because I was delivering food for people, for 800 people, from the food bank or from Publix, and I used to deliver. That's the reason I got them. And then my daughter came to Carolina. She liked it. And we were in Florida, and she begged us to come to North Carolina. Finally, we said yes. We came to North Carolina, and we came over here in 2009. And in 2012, my wife passed away after 62 years of marriage, 63 years of marriage. And so my daughter still lives over here. She got remarried. And my daughter and I have 5 grandchildren. Wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I have to count them by hand. 5 grandchildren. I have 1 great grandson. He just 9 years old. So I visited him 2 weeks ago in Florida, and I came back over here, and I speak at quite a few schools. As a matter of fact, I'm going to speak in another school on Thursday, and I got one on Friday, and next month I got to speak to over about 1,200 soldiers, Marines in Camp Lejeune. So, and I could go into details, but I guess you. So if you have any question, I didn't answer you, I'd be glad to answer you. So.
I have a few questions that you've already answered, but one question is, what message would you like to leave people with from all of your experiences?
My experiences, well, a lot of people ask me, do you hate the Germans? I said, no, I don't hate them. I don't like him, but I don't hate them. Hate to me is a bad word. I cannot see people hating each other like today, you know, what we going through in the United States. A lot of hate groups, and I really don't like it. Well, if you don't like somebody, that's a different story, but not to hate anybody. So my advice to you, if you have friends, if you don't, but don't hate anybody, but tell them, I don't like your thought, I don't like the way you speak, I don't like your shirt. But don't say I hate your shirt. So that's my advice to you.
Dr. Bullock, could you join me up here for a minute, please? All right, those of you that are unfamiliar with Dr. Bullock is the Social Studies Director for Durham Public Schools. So we asked him here today because having Mr. Piacek here is such a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And we wanted to thank him together for coming out. So we'll wait for Dr. Bullock to come on up.
Dr. Bull, are you an MD? You an MD?
PhD.
Oh, a PhD. I thought maybe you checked my heart.
Okay.
Nice meeting you, sir.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for coming out, Mr. Piacek, we have this wonderful frame, you know, showing you our appreciation that you can
thank you.
display. You can think of how wonderful our students and staff are here at Rogers.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Good.
And at Rogers Her, we have this motto called Rams Rock.
Why is it Rams?
And it stands for respect, ownership, knowledge, and character. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
So we'd love you to display this
thank
with
you.
pride when you're out and about.
Thank you.
And finally, we wanted to give you a nice little treat to walk away with.
Oh, wow.
Some nice chocolates. And for everybody, if we can give Mr. Piacek a round of applause for coming out.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. You have any more questions over there? Yeah?
I think they wrote them down. Andrew.
Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like to get a feedback from him and let him, you know, and send me with the tape.
I sure will.